कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 8th Canto, Chapter 24, Text number 50. Please repeat after me. Achakshurandhasya yatangrihi kritas. Achakshurandhasya yatangranihi kritas. Tata janasya vidusho buddho guru. Tata janasya vidusho buddho guru. Tvamarka druk sarva drisham samikshano. Tvamarka druk sarva drisham samikshano. Vruto guru na swagatim bubutsatham. Vruto guru na swagatim bubutsatham. Tvamarka druk sarva drisham samikshano. Guruna Tamsabutsa. Word to word translation. Achakshuhu, one who does not have his power of sight. Andasyam, for such a blind person. Yata, as. Grani agranihi, the leader who goes first. Krutaha, accepted. Tatha, similarly. Janasyam, such a person. Abhidushaha, who has no knowledge of the goal of life. Abudaha, a foolish rascal. Guruhu, the spiritual master. Tvam, your lordship. Arkadrak, appear like the sun. Sarvadrisham, of all sources of knowledge. Samikshanaha, the complete seer. Vrutaha, accepted. Guruhu, the spiritual master. Naha, our. Swagatim, one who knows his real self-interest. Bubut Satam, such an enlightened person. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. As a blind man, being unable to see, accepts another blind man as his leader. People who do not know the goal of life accept someone as a guru who is a rascal and a fool. But we are interested in self-realization. Therefore, we accept you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as our spiritual master. For you are able to see in all directions and are omniscient like the sun. Purport. The conditioned soul, being wrapped in ignorance and therefore not knowing the goal of life, accepts a guru who can juggle words and make some display of magic that is wonderful to a fool. Sometimes a foolish person accepts someone as a guru because he can manufacture a small quantity of gold by mystic yogic power. Because such a disciple has a poor fund of knowledge, he cannot judge whether the manufacture of gold is the criterion for a guru. Why should one not accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, from whom unlimited numbers of gold mines come into being? Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate. All the gold mines are created by the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, why should one accept a magician who can manufacture only a small portion of gold? Such gurus are accepted by those who are blind, not knowing the goal of life. Maharaja Satyavrata, however, knew the goal of life. He knew the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore he accepted the Lord as his guru. Either the Supreme Lord or his representative can become Guru. The Lord says, Mam eva e prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. One can get relief from the clutches of Maya as soon as he surrenders unto me. Therefore, it is the Guru's business to instruct his disciple to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead if he wants relief from the material clutches. This is the symptom of the Guru. This same principle was instructed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yara deka tare kaha Krishna Upadesh. In other words, one is advised not to accept a Guru who does not follow the path of instruction given by Lord Krishna. Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purport. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Grananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Enam Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Itinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Pasyata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktaranda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. As a blind man, being unable to see, accepts another blind man as his leader. People who do not know the goal of life accept someone as a guru who is a rascal and a fool. But we are interested in self-realization. Therefore, we accept you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as our spiritual master. For you are able to see in all directions and are omniscient like the sun. Anybody knows what is the context of this verse? Who is saying to whom? Huh? Yes, King Satyavrata to the Matsya avatar. So here, let us understand what is the background of this story. This is the last chapter of the 8th canto. So there are actually 2 different Matsya avatars. Right? This is the second Matsya avatara. Anybody knows what is the first Matsya avatara? At least the other Matsya avatar. So this story, see, the one Matsya avatara is when Brahma, at the end of his day, he is tired, just like we all get tired, right? And so, he's yawning and he's going to sleep. At that time, the Vedas are coming out of his mouth, and a demon steals. Hayagriva is the name of the demon. He steals the Vedas. At that time, Matsya, the Lord appears as Matsya and kills the demon and gives the Vedas back to Brahma. So that is one story of the Matsya Avatara. This second story is a very interesting one. So King Satyavrata was engaging in some austerities, and he was only subsisting only by drinking water. He was doing it on the bank of the Krutamala river. Okay. So while he was offering obeisances to Ganges, the Krutamala river, you take the water and offer back, right? While he's doing that, one small fish jumped into his kamandalu and took shelter over there. And it asked him, please don't put me back in the water. All these big, other fishes are there. I'm not safe over there. Please protect me. At that time, Satyavrata, being a Kshatriya, he said, yes, you've taken shelter of me, I'll give you protection. And so he took the fish back in that small pot. By next day morning itself, that fish had grown so big that it was hardly fitting in that pot. And so he said, "O king, see, this pot is not enough for me. No? You need to give me something bigger. Please protect me." He said, "Okay, fine." And then he put him in a well. And again, immediately, within a day, he grew 3 cubits long. And so he could hardly fit within the well anymore. And he said, "This well is too small. Please give me one large reservoir of water." Right? And the king went and put him in a lake. And he grew so big that he was not able to fit within the lake also. And then he said, "Okay, now I have to take you to the ocean." Right? And that's when he puts him in the ocean. Right? And so there's a very interesting conversation here. We'll just read a little bit about this pastime. At this time, the king understood that the fish is no other than Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? So here, Satyavrata is telling him, "Who are you, sir? You simply bewilder us. My lord, in one day you have expanded yourselves for hundreds of miles, covering the waters of the river and the ocean. Before this, I had never seen or heard of such an aquatic animal. My lord, you are certainly the inexhaustible Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, Sri Hari. It is to show your mercy to the living entities that you have now assumed the form of an aquatic." Right? So, at this time, the Supreme Lord was very pleased with him and informed him that within a week there is going to be a huge inundation of the universe. At that time, he would come again to help him. And he informed him to get together a big boat in which all the different, he said, the king informed him that within a week there will be inundation, and the fish incarnation would protect the king along with the rishis, the herbs, the seeds, and all other living entities in a boat which would be attached to the fish's horn. Right? That was the instruction that was given. And so, after this instruction, the Lord disappeared, and then there was this huge devastation. Right? At that time, it says the annihilation took place, and the king saw a boat coming near. After getting aboard with the learned brahmanas and saintly persons, he offered prayers to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, and thus he taught Maharaja Satyavrata and the saintly persons about the Vedic knowledge from the core of the heart. Okay? So this is the context of this discussion. We see this particular pastime of the inundation of the world and a boat coming. Right? This is there Can you believe every single religion of the world has this story? Whether you take some established religion or you take some small tribes in some remote this thing you go, they'll all have very similar story. How is it possible? Every single civilization, right? In the Christian civilization, what is this called? Right? Noah's boat. And if you go, we all went to Hawaii, right? They also have a tradition. There's some pollination, this thing, and then big boat will come and inundation will happen and all those things. There is I came across one documentary that talked about, the Mediterranean Sea. The Mediterranean Sea is, the Black Sea, which is right next to the Mediterranean Sea. Very small connection is there to the Mediterranean seas over there. So in that the Black Sea, there's historical evidence of how suddenly the sea levels rose by about 380 feet or something. And everybody had the same thing. They also had a big boat came, this thing came, and all those different things are there. When the modern scientists look at this, they have their own, explanation. This happened, that happened, tectonic plate shift, this, that, big explanation. But the point that is missing over here, it's not about the explanation, it's not about the validity of the explanation, it's not about any of these things. You're missing, by getting caught into those finer details, you're actually missing the big picture. Why is this evaluation happening? What is the purpose of life? Why are you here? Why do we keep going through all these different cycles? See, that is the primary question that needs to be asked. Instead of asking that primary question, we are all here, as this verse is telling this world, the blind is leading the blind. We are so caught up in this immediate material things. And there are enough things to bewilder you and keep you entangled in this world. Right? We see now the modern civilization, over the years, we have become more and more and more complicated lives. Right? People as early as even 100 years ago, everybody had so much free time on their hands. Right? Just for a second, just think about your own childhood. You don't have to go very far. Your own childhood, many of us are 40 years old, 50 years old, 35 years, whatever. Just go back to your childhood. We also had parents. Our parents were also working. Right? What was their lifestyle? Think about it. Right? Anybody remembers what time parents used to go to work? If at least one parent, sometimes two parents. Huh? So your parents didn't work in the government industry, huh? Government. 9:30, 10 o'clock they used to go. Right? 7 to 4, 9 to 5, whatever, right? It's like nobody opens office till 10. Right? They would go there and then lunch break and then this break and that break, coffee break. 4 o'clock, everybody's out of there. Nobody is there. There is nobody had phones also. Do you remember how many people had phones in their homes? I'm talking about landline, I'm not talking about cell phone also. Right? Now average man didn't have a phone. I remember, my mother used to be very, very planned and systematic. When I became a high school student, my mother bought one form for me to fill up and sign. Just guess what that form was. It was an application form for a phone connection. Because the waiting period for a phone was some 6 years or something at that time. So my mother was very thoughtful. Oh, I should put the application now, so that by the time he becomes, this thing, he will need a phone. So like that, in high school, I filled up an application form for a phone. So that was a situation in those days. Technology has changed. A lot of things have, obviously moved on. But think about that lifestyle of a person. You come back home, there's nothing to do. You sit here, you do some things at home, you take care of things. And then you finish, next day morning, you start going. Now, people will say, oh no, in those days you didn't have fancy cars, you didn't have phone, you didn't have LCD, you didn't have computers, you didn't have this, so many things. You can say a lot of things. But ultimately, what is it that, what is our life? What is the purpose of life? Only people realize this as they get a little older. Prabhupada used to say that we have increased the temperature. Fever, we all have fever. Only thing we have done is we have increased the temperature of the fever. Instead of having a 99 degree, 100 degree fever, we are all having 103 degree fever now. 103, 104, boy, everything is boiling, this thing, people are delirious, it's like big drama going on. What is the purpose of this? By the way, this is not the first time that civilization has been doing these things. If you go back 2000 years ago, Roman civilization, same thing, blind leading the blind. In the Roman civilization, it was a pinnacle of achievement on multiple levels. Right? There was a saying. Anybody remembers what the saying for the Roman civilization was? No, Rome was not built in a day, is okay. But there was another one about roads. All roads lead to Rome. Right? They had built such a sophisticated road system. From Rome, you could go all the way to China. Everything. Center was Rome. All over the world, they were ruling. And did you know, 2000 years ago, they used to eat ice cream? What? Some Mediterranean flavor. They were all living very luxurious lives. 2000 years ago. No, they have dug in those Roman things. They would dig holes, wells, 200 feet deep, 150 feet deep in their homes, all the rich people. So what happens when you go deep in the earth, it is very cold over there. And so they would send off expeditions to the mountains to get big chunks of ice. They would wrap it up and bring it and keep it down over there. And they would send there. Can you imagine going down 150 feet to go get some ice cream? There was that many. You have to go down 15 floors to go wet these things. They would preserve. That was the refrigerator, by the way. They would preserve all the foods that are going to perish down there 150 feet, 200 feet below. We also have a refrigerator. They also had a refrigerator. Right? There are hundreds of people to run the refrigerator. You had, we don't have. But the concept is all the same. They also want to enjoy, some delicacies. It is said that in the Roman civilization, there was a big debate in the Senate. Just like we have Senate now, Big debates happen, lot of discussions happen. Like that, the Roman civilization, as it became more and more sophisticated, it was a democratic civilization. Senators were there, big debates were going on. One of the debates that is going on, it is well documented, is that we are spending too much money in importing goods. Just guess from where? From India. India at that time was, almost 32% of the world's GDP. Can you imagine? America at its peak was 27%, India was 32%. Not America, not now. I'm talking about America in the 1950s and 70s or 60s is when they peaked. We are a slowly declining country at this point. And so, why? Because very fine goods used to come, very fine cloth. There was a big demand for muslin, silk, and this, and gold, and jewelry, all that came from India. Sandalwood and Aragu essence. People, because rich people, everybody wants the same things. They want nice fragrance, right? They want nice, this thing. So they used to get all of this. They used to import, spending huge amounts of gold, spices, and everything used to come. So this civilization, what we are living today, we are saying we have this, we have that, we have this. Yeah, everything was there before. Just that it's a little different. Just like, okay, we'll say we have internet now, I can access anything. Actually, in those days also, they also had libraries. They used to create huge libraries where you could go and access a book and get information. But what is the use? Let's say we get faster, everybody has it now. But what is the end use? Ultimately, every living entity has to answer this question. Sanatana Goswami asked this to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Very famous verse in the Madhya Leela. I'll just read out. Ke ami, kene amai jara thapatrai. Iha nahi jani, ke mane hitahai. Ke ami, who am I? Kene amai jara thapatrai. Why am I being subjected to this tapatraya, threefold miseries? Iha nahi jani, I don't know anything. Ke mane hitahaya, I don't know what is my hita, what is my ultimate benefit. He used to say, people are calling me a pandita. The world is calling me a pandita, but I don't know this basic answer to this basic question. Whether it was Roman civilization, whether it is American civilization, whether whatever civilization, very soon, everybody, we are getting close to our death. At that point, none of these things matter. It does not make any difference whatsoever. Right? That point, what really matters is, what did I do with my life? What is the meaning of life? Maya's goal is to take away our attention, take away our time, our energy is being drifted away in useless things. And so, that's why we see here, in this verse, there is discussion of basically saying that unless one is cognizant of the goal of life, right? As a blind man being unable to see accepts another blind man as his leader. People who do not know the goal of life accept someone as a guru who is a rascal and a fool. Right? We are all accepting, Chat GPT as our guru. Google as our guru. Right? This is the problem. And what is that Guru is going to do us? Ultimately that Guru is going to take us. What will the blind do when the blind is leading the blind? All of them will go into a ditch. And once you fall into the ditch, what is the use then? When you're done, you suddenly have a realization, oh, I fell in a ditch. Yeah, by that time it's too late. Right? That's why this example is given in the Shastras of a big elephant. An elephant in a forest is such a powerful animal. Not even a lion will dare to come near it. Very, very rarely you will see any lions trying to attack an elephant. They'll all stay far away. Right? That is why elephants usually nobody kills. There's no predator for an elephant. They all live 100 years. Right? It's a very well known fact that they live very, very long years. And so, such a big elephant is there, so powerful, nobody can come near him, big tusks. Right? How do they trap such an elephant? Right? A she elephant is trained. It is trained to touch the male elephant in a particular place that incites so much of lust in him. And he'll come running behind the she elephant. And the she elephant is trained, he'll go this way and that way, this way. And you're so blinded by this lust that, see, if it was just one simple thing, then you would have realized. But if you take enough round circles you do, you don't know where you're going. You're just running behind, without understanding what is going on. And then it'll go, big hole is there, same ditch. Suddenly it will turn, and this elephant is just going in a straight line, falls into the ditch. And once you are in the ditch, you may be big elephant, but you are starved, and you are made to surrender to the will of this Mahout. So like that, we are all being led by this blind gurus that we have, all this technology and this and all these false gurus. Not just technology and gurus. People have a lot of actual living gurus who are, as Prabhupada is telling here, who are fools and rascals. Because if you're looking for cheap things, as Prabhupada is telling in the purport, people are bewildered by a guru who can produce gold. Yes, it is very bewildering. So is that a solution to your problem? Every day he'll keep producing more and more gold for you. Ask him, every day give me gold. Is that possible? Then that should have been their purpose, the person. I'll keep on producing gold, all of you be happy. First of all, having gold, will that make you happy? Second, even if the person is able to give, first they're not able to give, which we have seen clearly, they're not able to give. The small thing they'll produce one time. Why? Because there's a Prapti Siddhi. You can keep the gold in some other place, by Prapti Siddhi you can produce it and here take it. Right? So one should understand what is the purpose, what is the use of this gold? What is the use of this civilization? What is the use of all the sophisticated things we have built around us? If ultimately it does not solve the basic problem of human life. Jara Thapatraya, the threefold miseries. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, Dukkha, Doshana, Darshanam. Right? This is the main problem that a human being is expected to solve. So we see here is a beautiful description of the teachings to Satyavrata, and after this, these prayers, can you imagine, all of this discussion went on through the whole night of Brahma. Can you imagine how many billions of years that is? And then next day morning, when Brahma woke up, it was time for the next Manu. This actually is Satyavrata then becomes very famous person we all know. Right? Vivaswan. Imam Vivasvate Yogam Proktam. Right? So this is the Vivaswan to whom this was spoken. Okay. We'll stop here. We have about a minute. Anybody has any quick questions or comments? जय ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की, जय शिल प्रभुपाद की, बोल प्रेमानंदे।